Today's lecture is about comparative adjectives and infinitives plus pronouns. Let's begin by looking at the comparative use of adjectives. In English, we have three different forms of an adjective. Adjectives inflect to be able to describe three different degrees of modification: positive, comparative, and superlative senses. The most basic is positive, where you're just attributing some kind of quality to a noun, a strong man or a good book. But if you're comparing two nouns, then you add ER. So this is stronger or better than that. If the comparison is amongst more than two people, then you have your EST endings, strongest, best. And in English, you have your kind of regular adjective inflection, strong, stronger, strongest, or your base can change, which gets kind of crazy: good, better, best. And this good, better, best is not the only adjective that changes base. And so with that kind of irregularity in the system, it's good news that in Hebrew, there's no comparative or superlative forms for the adjective. You just have your flashcard forms that you have memorized, and you get the comparative or superlative sense of the adjective from context. For example, in line 16, you have two different alternatives presented. I'll read it and translate. Hatov hayotcha chohen levet ish echad o leshevet. So, is it good for you, a man, to be priest for a house of one man or for a tribe? So these alternatives with the la preposition, so for one man's house or for a tribe, you know this is a question about what is better. Come on, do you want to be priest for just one man or for a tribe? Come on in with us. So we'll come back and we'll talk about comparative adjectives again in the future and address superlative adjectives. But the short story is you're just going to get this sense from context. The good news is you have no new forms to learn. It's just knowing how to recognize it in context. Next, infinitives plus attached pronouns. Here we have the infinitive with attached pronoun that you've actually saw from the previous slide. Here, this form exactly, hayotcha. So let's talk about it. So pronouns can attach to infinitives, and when a pronoun does attach to an infinitive, it can function either as the subject of that infinitive or as the object. Here I have it translated as the subject of each infinitive just because that's how this form functions in the story. As far as the attached pronoun forms themselves, it's exactly what you've come to expect. So I'll read the chart. I won't translate because you know how this chart works. Hayoti, hayotcha, hayotech, hayoto, hayota, hayotanu, hayotchem, hayotchen, hayotam, hayotan. I said that the pronoun can function as either the subject or object of an infinitive. So let's look at an example of each one of those. Here's another one where the pronoun functions as the subject of the infinitive, and this function is by far the most frequent in the Hebrew Bible. I'll read. Hotzeti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim leshochni vetocham. I brought out them from the land of Egypt for me to dwell in the midst of them. This form, you can tell it's from shachan. There are our consonants, shachan, and you know it's an infinitive because it has this la preposition. I said that a majority of infinitives have this la prefix preposition. Whenever you have a la preposition attached to a verbal form, you know that verbal form is an infinitive, which is helpful because here the O-type vowel is written as a kametz chatuf, and this is common in infinitive forms when they have an attached pronoun. So when you can tell it's an infinitive with an attached pronoun, by default, you just know this looking thing is going to be pronounced O. So le shochni. One other confirmation that this is pronounced O is because it occurs where kametz chatuf is written in a closed, unaccented syllable. So it's a closed syllable because the syllable ends in a consonant, and then it's unaccented because the accent mark is actually right here. Okay, pronunciation detour aside, let's carry on. Lo tashuv lekachto, where it's you shall not return to take it, where the pronoun now is the object, some masculine singular thing. So when you have a pronoun attached to an infinitive, it can either be the subject or object of the infinitive. How can you tell? Well, a few helpful things to say. One is just expect that it's the subject of the infinitive because that's the normal way that it happens. Another thing is, well, can the verb even take an object? For shachan, you can't dwell anything. So you just know right away to expect the attached pronoun is the subject. Besides that, you're just going to have to go on context. So lakach always has both a subject and an object. And so here you know here's the subject in this verb, and so the infinitive has to be object for what kind of pronoun it has. And next, how to derive an infinitive form from a Yiqtal verb. Now I say Yiqtal just as shorthand for a Yiqtol form that has an A-type vowel instead of an O-type vowel. The most common reason for A-type vowel is because the form has either a second or a third root guttural letter. Here it's in the third position, where the gutturals prefer A-type vowels over O-type vowels. And you know these forms just based on memorizing the flashcard forms that we give you. Now, how do you derive an infinitive? Based on last week, all you have to do is chop off your yi prefix and you have your infinitive form, right? Well, almost. The infinitive form of yilbash is actually levosh, where you have to convert the patach to a cholam because infinitive forms actually have a canonical o vowel pattern. Okay? And we'll add the la on because, as I've said, a majority of infinitive forms have a la prefix preposition, and that is lilbosh. Let's look at another one with yishma. You just chop off the yi, convert the patach to a cholam. Oh, but look at this. We get a furtive patach, shemoa, where the patach is written under but pronounced before the ayin. So we have two vowel sounds here in this one syllable, shemoa. So you have moa. And now you can understand the reason why a furtive patach occurs in precisely the location that it does. Here's why. There are three guttural letters, ayin, he, and chet, that when they are in a syllable final position require there to be a previous A-type vowel. They require it. And so you have these two vowels because you have these clash of requirements. The infinitive form itself requires this to be an O-type vowel, and the ayin requires this to be an A-type vowel. So in this one syllable, you get two vowel sounds, shemoa, and adding the la back in, or on top of it, lishmoa. And we're going to see the same thing with forget. You have yishkach, you chop this off, the patach will occur as a furtive patach, and you have a cholam, so shechoach, and adding the la, lishkoach. And we'll close by looking at how you derive the imperative forms from a Yiqtal verb. Here is the Yiqtal chart of shachach, yishkach, to forget. And remember, you derive the four imperative forms from the four second-person Yiqtal forms by removing the prefix. And for imperatives, it is that simple. There are no vowel changings even for these Yiqtal verbs. So you have ata, shachach, at, shichi, atem, shichu, and aten, shachachna. And last week I told you that the infinitive and the ata imperative forms are usually identical. Usually, but for Yiqtal verbs, they're going to be different. The infinitive form for shachach is shachoach, and the imperative is shachach.